Okay, so I'm going to begin now painting using my color and mixing my colors up onto my sketch that I've started here. So I'd like to say that what you should start is from the back to the front, right? That way, as you paint through something, the thing that's in the foreground, you can paint over top. So I'm going to demonstrate here painting first this red kind of jack thing, right? And I have put some colors down here. It's good practice here to see this. First of all, I'm looking at the particular red here of this form. There's at least 2 or 3 ways the red is going to be different, right? Some is in shadow, some is in light here, right? Neither one of them is either alizarin crimson or cadmium red light, so I'm probably going to mix those two together. It's important to go ahead and do some tests of the colors to know you pretty much have the right color. Why is the yellow and the blue here, right? Because when I'm going to make this in shadow, right, I'm going to be using the complement of the red to make it a little bit more gray or just a little bit darker. So I'm going to need green. Remember, on the color wheel, directly across from red is green, and I'm using ultramarine and cadmium yellow medium here. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly mix up a little of that now, just so I have it, so I can work through what I'm going to do. I wipe off my palette knife to keep that color pretty much clean there. I'm going to mix in some of the alizarin into the cadmium red light. But I want to get that color pretty close, and I want to make sure that I mix up enough, right, to where I like it. That's pretty close to that red that's there, right? Let me get a little bit more here mixed up. Okay, why do I have the white there? And I keep my white to the side, right? This is a good way to, when you set up your palette, right, you have your blues, your yellows, your reds, you can have your white somewhere as well. If you're using a plate, you can do the same thing. I can take a little bit of white, put it to the side, right? If you take some of the color and then you mix it into the white, that's the best way to do that. You can see that's pretty bright, so it's not pretty light. So I'm going to actually mix up a little bit more there for the areas where I need it to be that, and I can bring that back. So now I want to take one of my flat brushes here. I have the larger flat brush. Remember, I've cleaned it from the stuff that it's packed in. And I don't need to use any water first. I'm going to go ahead and do the light side. Take some of that light color that I mixed up. And I'm just going to stroke that like that. Okay. Actually want a little bit more white in there. There we can see that that's more of the color that's being, the red that's being affected by the light. You can see here I want to reach in as you get the feel for this. Maybe pick up a little bit more of that cadmium red light here for that. And I'm looking at, doesn't matter if I go over where that cup is. Remember, I'm going to be painting that cup over top of that area. It's different ways you can handle a brush, right? So we have that. I'm going to put a little bit more down there. You can see as you're applying paint, you get the feel for this. All right, I'm going to clean that brush, put it in the water and clean it. What I can do here now, because I'd like to get a little bit darker, I have another brush for my next values. So what I want to do is, while I have these two colors here, mixed up again, so they're not light anymore, right? Take and touch some green into that, and you can see that that's going to make that a little darker. You just scoop that up like that. So that gets us closer to a gray or a darker kind of red. So I can show this other side here that's a little bit darker. And if you wanted to use the same brush, you could, that I was using before. I just like to make sure that I have a clean brush. For the other values. Okay. Going to reach into some of that cadmium red light for this top area. It's not quite as dark. Reach into some of that green, maybe a little blue in that blue-green to show me where it's really dark there. Okay, I'm going to clean that brush. Wipe it off because you don't want it to be so watered down. I'd like to get even darker. As you can see, I had recommended black as a tube color you could use, but you don't ever really need to get that because you can get some good darks just by mixing up a number of colors like that. I've cleaned that brush. I want to come back in here where it's a little lighter. So as you can see, I am losing these edges. These edges will go away because that's where the blue is going to come in for that. I'm going to show you how to do the background. And here's that kind of edge that's poking out there. That's a little darker. All right. Finally, then I want to do this area that's black here. And as you could see, when I was mixing this blue and this yellow, I got that very dark green. I'm just going to grab some red there. And you can see that that's going to be really dark. If I put that to the side and just touch a little white on there, you can see that's a nice kind of gray. And I'm going to look for the areas where it's darkest. All right. Some area here where it's a little lighter. Reach in with some white into that. So I can show that the light is hitting there as well. And then it's kind of darker inside there. And I think I'd like to just get that really dark color one more time to show that it's really dark there. And here. And that's almost that dark as well. So why don't I just quickly, that color's probably dried, grab a little red, come back over that. You can see that's very dark, like that. And I also have some area here that's very dark. Right? This little area here is dark as well. Okay, so that is the start of painting the objects, right? You might see for yourself where you definitely want to refine these edges with more color as you go in. You'll find that acrylic paint actually will dry relatively quickly too, right? Within 10 minutes or so, maybe even less. So you can go back over and put another layer of color down as you need to. Remember here, these edges, right? These are going to be where the blue for the background is. Here, I'm going to be painting that yellow cup over that, so that's not going to matter. That's the object that's in the front. Okay.